Happy Turkey Day.
Happy post-Turkey Day.
Happy post-Turkey Day and happy Martini Monday.
Clink, clink. Martini Monday.
Celebrating Martini Mondays.
Clink, clink.
Another Martini Mondays.
Clink, clink, clink.
Martini Mondays up in this thing. Cheers to Martini Mondays.
Oh, up. Clink, 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 clink.
Extra
How was
dirty,
your Thanksgiving?
extra olives.
Oh, yeah. Shoot, I always forget about that. Extra dirty, extra olives.
Galveston dirty. Go for Mexico dirty.
Appetizer. So much olives is an appetizer.
My weekend was pretty chill and relaxed, and my Thanksgiving holiday was nice, simple, quiet, relaxing. The fam stayed on Zoom for about 3.5, 4 hours. You know, Zoom gave away unlimited time.
Oh, they did? I didn't even realize that.
For Thanksgiving, yeah. So we were on it. It was on and popping. We had a good Zoomsgiving with the Pipers. It was nice.
That's what's up. Did you go any places in Houston or have a Friendsgiving or anything like that?
No, we just went with Aaron's family to his parents' house, and that was about it.
That's what's up. We didn't really do much either. So we went to a small Friendsgiving on Wednesday, but we actually, it was on the inside. We stayed on the opposite side so that we were kind of away from people because the next day I knew we were going to Jordan's grandma's house, and with COVID, I didn't want to be like too close to anybody. And there wasn't that many people there. It was like less than 10 people. So that was cool. We ate. We didn't stay long. I had like worked a lot and I had to work the next day. So we only stayed for like an hour and a half.
So enough about that. The holidays are definitely on their way. Things are going to change because things are always changing in COVID land. But last week we had a very special conversation with Marlon Washington. And so, as promised, we have part 2 of that conversation about emotional intelligence and about so many other things. Last week's conversation was just amazing.
It was.
So,
it was beautiful.
It really was. It was. And I got a lot of texts saying like, wow, this was confirmation. I needed to hear this, like stuff like that. And I was like, oh, so they listening. So, and it was from guys too. So I thought that was really good, which is the whole reason why we wanted to have that conversation. So we do have part 2 lined up,
you guys,
this week. So we're going to get into the second part of the conversation about emotional intelligence.
So I'm gonna get a little more personal. What does emotional intelligence and that growing connection look like for you in your relationship? Because you are married. And which, congratulations, because that is amazing. That is awesome. And I love, we are champions of Black love.
Right.
But that emotional intelligence and how you have to use that in your relationship, what does that look like? How did you get to that point?
Ooh, this is so vitally important, because I'm just gonna say the divorce rate among people, and not more importantly, but for the subgroup of African Americans are extremely high, y'all. And I think if we were able to grow the collective emotional EQ of us as a whole, it would definitely help us lower that number.
Absolutely.
But it's hard. It's hard because you are dealing with 2 different people with 2 different emotional IQs, emotional intelligence levels, and then you're having to create this new relationship this new thing that has its own EQ, right? So you have an individual and you have a collective EQ that you have to manage at that point. Excuse me. And if we aren't at a suitable level, it will either we will do two things. We will either grow in EQ or decrease in EQ when we start to deal with others that have a different level of emotional intelligence that we have. So a lot of times, and I'm just gonna put this out here, guys, do not be mad at me because I love you all. Men, we often have lower levels of emotional intelligence than our counterparts, right?
I'm glad you said it so I didn't have to say it.
Right? and it hurt too, y'all, sometimes. Because it's just like, I just wanna, but you have to understand if you are together, and this is romantic relationships, if you are together with an understanding that love comes first, you don't have to be offended if your partner understands your emotions better than you, and then on the opposite, you don't understand your partner's emotions as well as they do. Don't be offended. It's a chance to grow. It's a chance to grow. And so a lot of times when we find ourselves in those situations, that's where patience, understanding, and forgiveness come into play.
The big three.
Oh my goodness. Those will sustain you in almost any situation. Almost. I'm gonna put that out there. Almost any situation.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And the byproduct of allowing space for each other to learn a healthy, growing connection is that we, when we keep that in mind, the goal that is growing connection, it becomes easier to be in relationships, right? When we know that the goal is to, number one, grow individually and then grow collectively, we can operate within the friction that goes on, because there is friction. I'm not gonna lie. And so it is hard, but it's not impossible.
I like that. Hopefully people who are in, romantic relationships, long-term marriages, whatever, they really take heed to that, because that's super, super, super important.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you something. When you were talking about like looking at yourself in the mirror, being self-aware, like I like to put it, be embodied. I want to know, like, first thing I want to say is there's something satisfying to me about seeing someone with low emotional intelligence be embodied by somebody with high emotional intelligence.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Because I don't like to see people fight. I don't like to see people argue, but that's something that I'm okay with.
Oh, you're right. You and me are the same, because I love a good, actually, I love a good one of those.
But I wanted to ask you, Marlon, do you have anyone in your life, or had anyone in your life, a friend, a family member, maybe your mom, maybe your dad, that has low emotional intelligence, and how do you approach someone like that? Because, if they're our friend, or if we have any type of relationship with them, it's something that we try to build and something we try to work on. We try to accept, like we said earlier, we try to accept those people where they are. So how do you navigate that relationship with them while trying to accept them the way they are, while they have low emotional intelligence?
Ooh, so first of all, I do know a lot of people like that. Second, just a word correction. I don't accept the level of emotional intelligence if it be low.
Okay.
I respect it. I have respect for you, because I've been in a place where I've been low on EQ, right? But I don't accept it, because everybody has the capacity to grow.
That's it.
So
that's it.
if if no one up to the point of that interaction has been the conduit or the fuel for you to know that you can grow, I'm gonna let you know that. And the way that I approach it, um, no one person is the same. I'm gonna say that. No one person is the same. No one relationship is the same. So for anybody that's listening, this is a disclaimer. Everything does not work for everybody in every situation. Please be aware of that, because you will hurt the people that you love if you try to handle them in a way that doesn't quite fit with the way that they need or want to be handled. Um, and so a lot of times the way that I approach it, I will be so emotionally aware that it makes them uncomfortable. And then I point out their discomfort, and I say, if this if this feeling does not feel good, then there is a very good chance that you need to grow in some type of emotional area. Um, but like I said, it doesn't work for everybody. Some
Right.
people some people will jump stupid, and I will have to almost have to physically body them because I love them to the point of I will restrain you if I have to. You know.
Right.
And then the almost the polar opposite is you almost have to find a common ground. Like, hey, I remember when I was 18 and I was hurt time and time and time again, and I find myself not quite understanding how to deal with this. Is that where you find yourself? Is that how you feel most times, that you're not quite able to understand or not quite able to handle what you're feeling? Because I've been there. I've been in places where it's like I'm going to literally pull my hair out, right? And so I'm gonna be transparent again. Back in 2010, 2011, I was in a really hard relationship, right? And this relationship was sending me through an emotional roller coaster. And right now, I have a beautiful set of locks, but I had a set of locks in 2011 that I was so proud of. But the emotional roller coaster that I was going through, it caused me to literally make a decision that I would not have made if I was in my right state of mind. I cut my hair off, and the moment that I cut the last lock out, I was so disappointed in myself. I said, man, I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, man, what have you done?
Ooh,
And so that's just one of those things that I can use to find common ground with people that find themselves not quite having that emotional intelligence that they would like to have. So yeah.
Being that you are this self-aware and you know, you seem to have a good grasp. I won't say you have it all figured out, because you know we're all still learning, but you have a really firm grasp on this thing. Do you ever have to fight against old habits when dealing with your emotions?
That face says it all.
Oh, no question. Absolutely no question. To look back on who I was when I was younger, I was so a lot. Y'all will probably understand this, but I know men will understand this even more. I was so callous, right? I had this layer over my heart, over my mind, and over my body. I was like, bring it on, whatever it is, bring it on, right? Um, and so now I was already laid back, but the people that I ran with helped me to be a little bit more rowdy back then.
Yeah.
Now I am I am like this. I'm like this really laid back
So
gentleman, right?
true. I'm like,
And
yes, so true.
but the I call it the fool in me. The fool in me is always there. It's always trying to come back to the
absolutely. Yeah.
And I have to fight different emotions, and I'll tell you a few. One is I battle depression at such a high rate that if I didn't have supportive people around me, and I didn't have a level of understanding of what it is and where it comes from, I would be in the loony bin, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I have to fight is anger. The plight of African American men is almost guaranteed to be filled with anger.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, James Baldwin called it rage.
I love that because I love that. I'm going to start using that. I love that because that's what it actually is. You have a sense of when you're angry, you still have a sense of self when you're angry, but when you're in a rage, you revert back to that primal instinct, that primal brain function, and you react totally on emotion, right?
Absolutely.
You act completely on emotion. And I've been in a place of rage before, right? In my youth, when people would cross me the wrong way, even though I was voted most courteous in middle school, I still had rage, right? And I had to have rage on the football field. I had to have rage, aggression, toughness. I had to have those things. And so when you're not able to separate those things from who you want to be around your loved ones, that's when the problem comes. And it's an actual struggle. Like, it's like another person that is constantly tugging on my shoulder, like, hey, let me out. I want to just come out and just, I want people to see me like they see you. And so the other thing that I have to fight against is sadness. And that comes when I look at other people, right? I'm such an empathetic person that if I'm not careful, I will get sad to the point of not being able to function correctly, right? And
now, is it also a feeling of guilt as well for seeing people in situations and thinking about, how you may have it better or, maybe more privileged than them?
I would agree with the first part, not with the second part, because and this is just me, I always see myself in a lower place than I actually am.
Okay.
And that I probably need to talk to my therapist about that, but I don't know if that's a healthy place, a healthy thought process or not. But that's that to me, honestly. But some of it is by seeing the plight of other people. But I think the sadness comes from not being Superman.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like,
right.
You never hear about the people that Superman doesn't save.
Right.
And so that image, that facade that heroes always save. There's nobody that dies on a hero's watch. That facade is like, you take it in and it's like, God, I want to save the world.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't see the world being saved, it is a little saddening, right?
Right.
Yeah. I definitely relate to that. I relate to that a lot.
Definitely. That's actually something I'm talking to my therapist about, because she that's the reason why I asked you, is it guilt as well? Because she asked me, why do I feel so guilty? Because she asked me a question about my stress, and I was like, wouldn't you be stressed? And I started naming all these things that's going on, like kids getting shot in the hood. I was like, the whales died from people throwing straws in the ocean. Like, I was naming everything. And she was just like, why do you have this sense of guilt to where you feel like you have to save everyone? And if you don't, you feel bad about it. And I was like, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But it's just I definitely relate to you, Marlon. Go ahead, Mia.
I was just saying that's like us having to be Wonder Woman and, Marlon and men feeling like they have to be Superman when you can't do those things. Most, I guess, people with a certain level of emotional intelligence, you feel, or, that certain level of empathy, feel so much. And it's like, what do I do with all of these emotions? It's a lot. So I was reading something the other day that said emotional intelligence is some of the hardest work you will ever do in your life if you so choose to do it, if you so choose to do this work. But it's worth it because it changes your life. And so a question popped into my head, and I shared it with Jeanne earlier in the week, and I hope you thought about it. But the question was, can you imagine having such a high EQ that you actually don't blame other people for how you feel? Because the thing is these days is, I feel this way because of you. You did this to me. You said this to me. You're the reason why. And it's always putting it off on someone else and never really checking self. And so I just thought that was something really, really interesting. Like, I feel the way I feel because it's how I feel, period. It's not necessarily because of some external situation. We know that emotions don't have any real intelligence, and emotions themselves, or these feelings, are fleeting. They come and go, they change just like the weather. So I thought that was really interesting. And then I read something else that said having emotional intelligence is the ultimate form of independence. So, we're of a particular age now. We've seen each other grow up the way, like what Marlon was saying. And we've seen these life changes. And, most people think that being an adult is all about having money. Independence is all about having money, traveling, not having to answer to anybody. That's the freedom that we long for in this adult life. But none of that actually addresses what's really important in life. And so you're always going to be stunted, or you're always going to be held back if you can't navigate your emotions and other people's emotions and be able to effectively communicate your own. And so this is, when we talk about the work, this is the work. When we talk about emotional intelligence, this is what it is. This is what should be focused on. So, Marlon, I had another question for you. Jeanne, go ahead.
All I was going to say is, this is what I mean when I talk about the scam of adulting. Because when we are growing up, we think that being an adult is about exactly what you're saying: traveling, being able to make our own decisions, doing things when we want, what we want to do, exactly on our time, and without anyone's input at all, solely our own. And it's like, that's not really what adulting is about. And it's like, it's in the things that it really is about, it's so much harder. It's so much harder. And a lot of these things that we learn later on in life, we form earlier in life. So it's hard to adjust once we get older and get out the house and start like navigating into the bigger world. So it's just like I said, it's called the scam of adulting for a reason. Yeah. Go ahead, Marlon.
I just had a question. And so you're a dad, and you have a cute little son.
Yes, he's a daddy.
What are some things that you're teaching your son when it comes to his emotions, expressing his emotions, and that whole father-son piece about it being okay to be an emotional being?
I'm teaching him some of the things, one is that I'm teaching him that his emotions are valid, right? What he feels is real. A lot of times, especially with the father-son relationship, a lot of fathers don't have very high emotional intelligence levels, and so they pass that on to their son. And one thing I don't want to pass on to him is the length of the path that I had to go on, right? So like I said, one of the things that I'm teaching him is that his emotions are valid and should be respected. If somebody is not respecting your emotions, they don't care about you like they say they do. Flat out. And yet at the same time, though your emotions are valid and should be respected, your emotions should not cancel out what you know to be true. He knows that I love him. And even though some days I might get on him because he does certain things and then he might feel a certain way. But that feeling should not negate the fact, the truth that I love you.
Right.
And then the other thing, and I love that, Mia, that you mentioned that feelings are fleeting, right? One thing I like to say to people, and I'm expressing it a little bit different to my son because he isn't on a understanding level as most adults, most. But I tell people that feel what you feel, but don't keep feeling that way.
Right.
If it's a negative feeling, feel how you feel, but don't keep feeling that way. And the way that it translates to my son is that I validate his feeling, I respect it, and then I display another emotion in the atmosphere, in that space. And most of the time it's love, it's laughter, those things that make us feel bubbly and lift us up. And 10 times out of 10, his emotions instantly change and reflect the atmospheric emotion, right? And so I love the fact that my son could get in trouble. He can get a pop on his leg. He could be absolutely crying his eyes out. And the moment I say, "No, come here," he sometimes he walks, but he runs up to me. He allows me to pick him up. I hug him and I say, "Daddy loves you." And sometimes, listen, sometimes he says, "No, I don't love Daddy." But you know what I do? I say, "Daddy loves you. Do you love Daddy?"
Is amazing.
Oh my gosh,
that is amazing, Marlon. Now imagine, because there's this thing, how we grew up, how our parents grew up and how their parents grew up, this radical fatherhood. We had a previous conversation about the myth of Black fatherhood and how, 70% were, it was some myth that 70% of fathers were not
absent,
but it was a totally...
absolutely listened to that. I listened to that episode and I was so proud of you guys because you shed light on things that people don't understand.
They don't know it.
And I'm so passionate about that, not only because I'm a father, but I see other good fathers and I'm like, don't say that.
Yes,
You are perpetuating a lie.
Right. And that I commend you for that, simply because that's something that a lot of people in our generation and the generation before did not have. They did not see it for whatever reason.
They didn't understand it.
Didn't understand it. That is radical to people these days, but it should be the norm. That's what we should be doing. That's what we definitely need to get back to. I think that is so amazing. Like,
it's beautiful.
I'm over here like mind is blown. You have me over here fighting back tears. Like, that is amazing.
If I can share another part of that relationship that we have, when we're out in public, right? Even if it's small setting, whatever it may be, my son is at that age to where he knows how, he consciously knows how to disagree and say no forcefully, right? And we may be out in public at a store or not so much now, but we could be out and he does something or he asks for something and I tell him no, right? I say no, not right now, maybe when we get home or something to that effect. And he gets angry. He says, no, I want it now, and he cries and all this stuff. And I had this thing uh to reprogram his mind to revert back to who he is 90% of the time. And I a lot of a lot of parents use it but don't use it the way that I use it. So they count down from 5. And most of us know that when our parents get to 1 or 0, we're about to get whipped.
Oh
right?
boy.
But I do it in a way that I say, if he's crying and he's yelling, I say, you got 5 more, you got 4 more, you got 3 more, you got 2 more, you got 1 more. And then it sounds weird, but I open up my heart and I push a comfort and I push relaxation and I push those things into him. And the way that looks is I make eye contact, I smile, I allow my brow to unwrinkle, and I calm myself down first so that he knows to follow suit, right?
Yeah.
And so if people are absolutely amazed at that. Now, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes he wants a cookie so bad that he is willing to get popped. And I understand that. But 90% of the time, that's how it happens. And I am adamant in saying that my son saves my life every day.
Right.
That's beautiful.
Just imagine where he's going to be when he gets older, just from you doing simple things like that with him.
Simple things,
like,
but very intentional,
effective.
very, very effective. Now, I keep thinking, what if our friends and families and our peers had that growing up? Where would we be as a people? You talk about that collective, raising that collective emotional intelligence of a group of people. Where would we be? I think about my dad and how he treated me much softer and much nicer than them boys, right?
Yeah.
And
but on the flip side, our moms were much harder on us than they were on the boys.
That was the thing. But imagine if dads took that approach back then.
Right.
You know, the same approach that Marlon is taking now with his son. Where would we be if that radical love, that intentional love was shown back then? Like I said, there was no major emphasis placed on emotional well-being and emotional intelligence. It was all about, you got to provide, and your emotions were on the back burner. But if we could find a way to prioritize exactly what Marlon is talking about,
right?
You think Black people are unstoppable now? Like, this would be amazing if we could actually do this. But I think that it starts with these conversations. It starts with more people stepping up saying, hey, I am going to be better for myself, for my children, for my husband, for my wife, and so forth and so on. We create a movement, and this thing really starts to work. We become better people just from doing these things. And these things they're not, I don't want to say they're not strenuous. They can be tedious, but just like Marlon was telling us, they are
an investment of self.
Simple investments that you can start doing today. You can start doing these things right now.
And they say what's the best investment that you can make is self-investment.
Exactly.
Like it is hard, but like you said, Mia, at the same time, it's just these little simple steps that we know will make us better. And like Marlon, when he was talking about the shift and how I think he said the first thing was managing his anger and those type of emotions. That's like one of the first steps to raising your emotional intelligence, is basically like managing your emotions, your stress levels. So, and being aware
that you have these issues first.
You have to be aware of them, because a lot of people aren't even aware of it. You know, there was, like I told you, when I had that job that was making me so upset and my temper was so short, I didn't even realize it until like somebody sat me down, was like, hey, you just been a little like on edge lately. But once that person told me that, I didn't blow up in their face. You know, you actually have to listen to what they're saying and take it, like Marlon said, with love. Like, if you know that this relationship that you have and everything is with love first, then there's nothing personal about it. All they're doing is trying to help you. So
right. And even if they don't mean it in a helpful way, even if there is malicious intent behind it, your emotional intelligence tells you that I can take this negative and turn it into a positive, where I need to. So we've talked about a lot of really positive things. Marlon has been super duper transparent, and I love it. Like, I'm getting my whole life.
Amazing.
I want to sort of flip the card a little bit, and I do want to talk and it does require, more transparency and vulnerability. But when it comes to emotional intelligence and our EQ and how we're still learning, we're still growing, I do want to know, because we are still in that process, what are some of your triggers? And what are some of those things that just set you off and make you ready to react out of that?
Bring the fool out of you.
Oh, bring that fool out. That non-intelligent emotion. Like, what are some of those things that just is gonna get you every time?
Oh God. Okay. So for me, and so what I want to do, I want to give one of three collective types of emotions that we have, triggers for those three. And so one of my triggers is death, right? And death causes me to experience heavy sorrow, right? Number one, because I've experienced some very impactful death over my lifetime. Had a very close grandfather that died. I want to say I was maybe 11, and I was present in the hospital when his life left him. Right, so I was impacted very heavily by that. Then I had a very close cousin that died from a brain aneurysm. And most recently, I lost a grandmother last year. I lost an aunt early this year, and I just lost a great uncle on Wednesday or Thursday of last week.
Oh wow! My condolences.
Thank you.
Yeah. Prayers to your family.
So much. Thank you so much. We definitely need it. But not always deaths that are close to me. I am an empath, remember? So if I know people that have experienced impactful death, that will bring on a level of sorrow in me. And to kind of upswing it, another trigger is laughter. Laughter for me, I've been known to get cases of the giggles, and they are absolutely amazing. Because I love to laugh, first of all, and I love when it comes unsolicited, and so I give myself fully over to the case of the giggles.
I love it.
I love that. Yeah.
And then another thing is disrespect. I feel as though, and I'm getting a little bit darker here. I'm talking about the fool. Disrespect instantly gives the fool in me a reason to come to the front of the line. Because, number one, I feel as though everyone deserves a level of respect.
Right.
Absolutely.
Number two, I've seen the depth of the evil that's inside of people. And number three, I've had disrespect to a high degree been done unto me.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand how it feels. I understand how it looks. And I understand that it shouldn't always be.
Right.
And so those three things coupled together sets me off. And I have to be careful, not only in the moment, but the moments after, who and how I interact with those people, right? For me and my wife, we have an understanding that if there is a look, because there is a look that I display that is far from the normal look that I have. If there is that look, just give me a minute, please.
Mm.
Because I value the relationship that I have. And I would hate to conduct myself in a way that is inappropriate because of a fleeting feeling.
Right.
So I try to communicate it audibly when I can, but sometimes I cannot. So there is a look that is associated with it. And I definitely make the atmosphere conducive for my son to have his alone time when I have my alone time, especially. And I like to let him know what time it is. Like, hey, daddy's gonna have a little bit of his time. What do you need in this moment? Do you want to watch TV? Do you want to play on your tablet? Do you want to practice your reading, writing, addition, subtraction, whatever it is? This is your time to, do your own thing. But yeah, those are some triggers for me.
That's good. I like that you said that geared towards your son too, because as a teacher, nowadays it's not about you do as the teacher says. It's more about you give them a choice. You give them, dang, I'm blanking. You give them the option to choose what they would like, because you're fostering that interest, you're fostering, their decision-making ability, so forth and so on. So that's a really good point. Jeanne, what are your triggers and what are some things that set you off and make you ready to react out of emotion?
The main thing for me is having to repeat myself over and over and over. So I have a lot of patience. So when it's to a point where we're weeks out, because that's how much patience I have, though, I would just let it go and just be like, hey, just a reminder, whenever you get time, friendly little reminder, that I'm that person. And then, because, I have triggers. It's just that it takes longer for me to react to those triggers than it does for like regular people. Honestly, like there's like yours being disrespect, Marlon, I definitely understand because that's one of mine, except it'll take me days to react to it versus in the moment. And but having to repeat myself, that has to be one, because once I'm there, I'm there, and it's like I have to take a step back and be like, okay, girl, it's not that serious. And then
before she Hulk smash you.
Exactly. And then it brings the fool out of me. And that one, as I was talking, I was like, okay, that one's not the main one. So like number one for me, just like Marlon's is disrespect, mine is too, except it's not disrespect towards me, it's disrespect towards my loved ones. I can actually handle somebody disrespecting me. Like,
Definitely.
I will just sit there. I'll still have a smile on my face. I'll even laugh because I genuinely think their perception of me is hilarious, because I'm just like, I don't know how you getting this, but okay. But when someone disrespects one of my loved ones, and that can be family or friends, I tend to lose it a lot faster. You said it gives your full permission to come to the front of the line. That's basically what happens. There's nothing more that I react to faster than that. And it hasn't happened in a while. But the last time it did happen, I did not handle it as best as I could have. So, I can say that my EQ is a lot higher than then. So, it would be interesting to see how I would be able to handle it if it was to happen to me today. But the last time, I'm not even gonna lie, I was ready. I was ready and willing.
Hey, that's why it's a
gave
trigger.
0.
Right. That's why it is a trigger. I have to say that I definitely agree with you guys when we talk about disrespect, and especially you, Jeanne, when it talks about disrespecting other people. Like, not just come to the front of the line, but tag team. I'm finna tag you in, and I'm jumping stupid. Quick. Like, I think about the disrespect for me looks like you're being overly demanding of me, or in a way where you feel entitled to something that you are not entitled to. In conversation where you are over talking me, or over talking someone that I love or hold dear, or where you are playing the victim when ain't nobody did you nothing. I don't like that one. But the main one that it just boils my blood is when you talk condescendingly to myself or to my family, and there's no reason for it, and the sarcastic passive aggressive pet names come out, and,
sweetie, honey,
all of those things, like, these hands, do you want them? Like, 'cause I'm ready to give them. But those are some of my triggers, and like Marlon was saying, like, for me, that's what that anger is, and not just towards these personal situations, but this anger towards the world, towards what's happening. It's like a constant state of rage that you have to navigate through, because it's so complex. This whole, like, this life that we are living is so complex, and it makes me want to react. But we know that as Black people, we're not allowed. It's still not okay for us to show that raw primal emotion, because so many, and like Marlon was saying, it could get dark really fast. So many things are bound to happen if we just show, the truth of who we are at times. Women get tagged as emotional creatures, right? I always find it interesting and a little annoying when we do this, like, battle of the sexes thing.
Yeah.
I think humans are emotional beings, period. That's and true. Not emotional, like always crying and just always up in arms or whatever, but just showing basic emotion. I think a person who does not show those basic emotions are able to, that person who's not able to articulate their emotions, they kind of stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, they're the ones with the problem.
Right, which is why I'm like, that means there's something else, going on. And then you have those people who are like 30 plus, who have the emotional intelligence of a 16-year-old. I always wonder, I always wonder about them, their lives, their experiences, why they are at that point in their lives. I'm just curious about people. It's probably why I got a whole psychology degree that I student that for.
Sounds about right.
But Marlon, why, and you've touched on it, throughout the conversation, but I guess in simple terms, why is it important for men to be able to express themselves, not just to other men, but to the women in their lives, their children, their parents, their families, their coworkers, so forth and so on? Why is that such an important thing? And then what can that look like from your point of view?
So to answer your question, I'm gonna do a little bit of a visualization. So imagine a pipeline, right? And the pipeline is filled with compressed gas. And so it's always filled, no more gas can get in. And then imagine continually adding more gas to the pipeline, right? And then after a certain level, the pipeline will burst. Like it won't be able to contain what it's being overly filled with. And so the same thing is true for men. So with that same pipeline, imagine a release valve at one end. And, expressing yourself in different ways can be a release valve for your emotions. And the importance of it is that, number one, you get relief. Number two, the people around you see the real you. And number three, they can love you the way that you need to be loved. Because when we don't show people who we really are, it is impossible for them to love us the right way.
My God.
Oh my God, speak on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the byproduct of that expression gives life to emotional intelligence. That expression shows you and others that you know where you are, you have an idea of where you would like to be, and most important, that you're doing the work that it takes to get there. And that's what it looks like. Finding healthy ways to express yourself. Communication is vital in any area of life. If you cannot communicate, you cannot thrive. And if you cannot thrive, you will not grow.
That's it. That is it. I'm glad you mentioned healthy, because I kind of went through this whole thing as I was thinking about the conversation, and I was thinking, and John, I kind of talked to you about this a little bit before. If you were emotionally intelligent, or you had a healthy level of emotional intelligence, you probably wouldn't be doing these particular things.
Oh yeah.
So add where you want to add, but these are just some things that I came up with because I saw an Instagram live with T.I., and I want to shout out one of the teachers that I work with who sent this to me, and she was like, girl, look at him. And he mentioned some things. He mentioned something, and I couldn't even get through the whole thing because it was just so absurd. He said something like, women are not interested in a man who does not have a bunch of women, or who doesn't have the ability to pull a bunch of women. And I
hate it when men say that. That's not the first time I've heard that. I don't understand
who's looking at
who
T.I.
came up with that. But
emotional intelligence.
Exactly. But we've heard that before?
I have never. At least I can't recall.
But it wasn't said like that. Remember, it was like no woman wants a man who don't have other women who wants him.
Right.
You've heard that before, right?
Marlon,
it's basically the same thing.
I have, and I've heard it recently, and it was among people from my work environment. And what I do now for a living is I work in a warehouse, and that is a manly place to work, right? And so oftentimes you encounter men that have a certain perception of how the world works, and
right.
oftentimes I don't completely and fully agree with their perception, and you have to be in that type of situation. You have to be smart about how you go about things. Sometimes it's a good idea, it's a smart idea to not inject yourself into those conversations. Not that you shouldn't express how you are or your perception of it,
Right.
but oftentimes you will be bombarded with stereotypes and very vague opinions and those things of that nature. And so oftentimes I find myself, which I actually don't mind, when those conversations go on, I find work to do over there. So I don't, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't have to, so I don't have to engage so much in it. But some people might say, well, you should be the person that speaks up and sets them straight and this and that.
I disagree.
I understand where you're trying to go, but that vehicle doesn't get you there.
Right.
The best thing that I can do is to live it instead of trying to tell them. You know what I mean? And so when we talk about women, I exit the conversation. But when we're talking about how can we be better spouses, oh, I'm in there. We gonna talk about that.
Okay.
We gonna get on there. You know, we talk about how we are with our kids. Oh, I'm in there. This is what I do.
Right.
This is what we do. You know, and not only tell them this is what we do. This is the fruit that it bears. My son was reading at a very young age. He could do addition at a very young age. He has a certain level of understanding that many kids his age do not have. And not saying that, oh, we have we have the secret to how to make children da 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 da.
Right.
No. It's because of how we interact, how we set the atmosphere, how we do all of the things that we do. He does the work. We just set the atmosphere, you know. And so I hear that, and what I think is that nobody fact check these men about what they're talking about. If you are going to speak, I think it's a good idea. If you're going to speak about the goings on of the opposite sex, you actually need to consult the opposite sex.
Right.
You know, and that will give you a pretty good idea of whether you're right, wrong, or maybe you need a little bit of work on your perception. But I disagree with the sentiment. I think it feeds into the male ego.
Oh, absolutely.
And let me be frank. Everybody ain't a looker.
You're right about
but
that.
somebody will look at you.
That's so true.
Don't think just because one person looks at you that there are many people looking at you, and that goes to both sides. I'm not, but for the sake of this conversation, men, calm down. Every woman does not want you like that, bro.
Right.
And I call you bro because I love you.
and I venture to say that maybe T.I. went ahead and expressed that because there was a financial component to that. Ooh. That money thing, popular rapper, all that. But if he was just regular Clifford Harris on the street, who was in Atlanta, who was really looking at him? And that goes for so many people who don't have that status of that thing.
It's like they get detached. and they don't
completely detached from reality.
The life that they live in is not everyone's life, and that's not how everyone in normal life operates.
Normal life,
so is it you or is it the money?
Right.
Is it you or is it the bottles and the party and the cars and the house and the traveling and the the famous, the wide-eyed that comes with the people that you hang around? I venture to say it's that more than it is you.
Right, because like you said, it's an ego thing, and I know the fame that he's had, and it goes for so many people, and even nameless people who we don't even know, but they got that bag. It puts a battery pack in their back for them to feel that way, and it's just like, but you're not a looker. You don't have these strengths and qualities, so forth and so on. Like, if you only knew what women were really looking for. So it's like, I wonder what pool of women, where did he get this information from? Nobody fact checked him. But the dudes who were on the podcast were just like, yeah, bro, yeah.
I bet they were just all in cahoots with each other, just all in agreement.
I'm just, sometimes he could be so problematic. And
if he was emotionally intelligent, he would not have told Tiny that she was wrong for having a friendship with Floyd Mayweather. And when she checked him on cheating on her, he said, but did y'all have, what did he say? Did y'all have a disagreement? Were y'all at odds? So it was okay for him to do it with someone that she introduced him to, but not okay for her, because him and the girl wasn't at odds, and him and Floyd Mayweather were at odds.
And that's why I'm like, he has an entire platform.
The logic, Lord, the logic.
And he's telling this to thousands and millions of people at this point. And it's just like, bro, where's your emotional intelligence? Just because you have this jailhouse dictionary vocabulary, it doesn't mean you have this emotional intelligence.
It makes me upset that we're even talking about T.I. and that I even know this information and know about this from Tiny, because he says so many things that's so stupid that it becomes this big to where I actually saw it and I barely see stuff.
Right. I think you definitely started off this portion of the conversation. If you were emotionally intelligent, you probably would not be doing these things. So the first thing I was thinking about was you wouldn't be intentionally taking advantage of people or intentionally mistreating people because you know that you can. You wouldn't be slow to apologize if you did in fact offend somebody or hurt someone's feelings. And shame wouldn't even be in your realm of possibility. There would be no body shaming, career shaming, mental health shaming, slut shaming, money shaming. We can tag on everything, any type of shame. You wouldn't be doing those types of things, and you wouldn't be projecting your emotions and your insecurities on another person. One of my coworkers said, you wouldn't manipulate people. We were having a conversation about narcissists and how they play on that manipulation thing because they sense something in you. And then if you don't buy it, they just go to the next person. I'm going to manipulate everybody I can until I get the response that I want. You wouldn't blame your poor treatment of women on not having a father figure in your home. And so my coworker said that you wouldn't actually, let's just be real about it, punish women because of whatever happened in your childhood. You didn't do that work that you have to do. Instead of doing the work, you chose to take it out on who hurt you.
Yeah.
So it's like those types of things. And then me and Jeanne, I threw a fun one in there for Jeanne, and I was like, you wouldn't be letting a woman believe that you're dating her and then turn around and say you're not ready for a relationship. Those types of things. Like if you were emotionally intelligent, you would not be seeking to do these types of things.
And so you know what, at the same time, to flip it, if you were emotionally intelligent, and I'm talking about a woman, you wouldn't be trying to rush marriage on a man within the first year of your relationship.
She went there, guys. She went there.
That's all I'm saying.
If that's you, say ouch. But, you know, overall, this whole thing, and Marlon put it so eloquently multiple times throughout the conversation, this really is about honesty. It's about being open and being honest with yourself first. And yeah, it does sound like a lot of work, but what else are you doing? What else do you have? This is what life is about. These material things that we work so hard for, you know, your kids are not gonna look at you and be like, well, my daddy bought me the newest Jordans every time they came out. My daddy bought this. My daddy gave me this. They want connection. Your kids really want to know that your dad was there at heart with you. You know, you're gonna have to look back on your life one day, and we hope that there aren't regrets, like when it comes to connecting with people when you had the means, you had the time, and you had the opportunity. The other thing is, I know we talked about balancing this whole thing. It's a complex, life is just complex. How do we balance everything that we have to do?
In a pandemic.
In a pandemic. With the years that we've had, with the shifts that we've had, with the advancements and the setbacks that we've had.
Ever changing.
Yeah. How do you respond to how people treat you, how you treat yourself, how you treat other people? And so, you know, this connecting, processing our emotions and our thoughts, and all of this should be the norm. All of this shouldn't be just mind-blowing to us, but it is for some of us. It is.
Right.
But hopefully, you know, with these conversations, continuing these conversations, and then doing the work, choosing to do the work, we keep getting better and better and better. And so hopefully this conversation is the first of many, and you know, you can have them with yourself, with your spouse, with family, with friends, with coworkers. It shows us just how much deeper and how much more honest we got to get. And we can't shy away from that inner and outer work. Our relationships, including the ones that we have with ourselves, they depend on it. And so I hope that we, especially being that we are surviving the wildest time in our lives, I hope that we find ourselves showing that courage and that vulnerability to be open with people. And that'll do it for me. So any last thoughts or comments that you guys want to add?
Well, Marlon, I would, if you would like to go ahead and tell people where they can find you, or if you have anything going on or anything you want to plug, if you want to go ahead and plug it right now.
Okay.
Or anything your friends doing that you want to plug, anything.
Right. So on Facebook, I can be found at my name, Marlon Washington Sr. On Instagram, I can be found. My personal page is Humble, HUMBLED, Humbled Hearted, HEARTED 1. That is my Instagram tag, and then you can find every other thing that I'm doing afterwards. I'm growing my brand. My brand is faith, family, and fitness. It is something that it's a culmination of the things that I hold near and dear. So I hold my faith near and dear to my heart. I hold my family and other families near and dear to my heart. And then I love movement. And so couple those things together, I think it's definitely going to be life-changing for the people that it does impact. And last remarks, like I said, I'm an encourager. So I encourage everyone that hears this, make this the starting point of your journey towards emotional intelligence. It doesn't matter where you are. It only matters where you're going, and how much you're willing to work to get there. And lastly, I want to encourage you two young women to continue to chop at the block with this podcast. Continue to be creative. Continue to love what you do. Continue to be effective not only in your workplace, in your personal life, but with each other. Your friendship is gold. The friendship that you two have is gold. So don't sell it for a price that is not worthy of the value of it. Jeanne, you are capable of every hard thing that you find yourself coming up against. Okay? And Mia, you have a heart that is so incredibly special that it is going to change not only your students, but everybody that comes in contact with you. So protect your heart and know that it is valued. Okay. So yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm so glad that I took the time and accepted that offer.
I'm gonna just go in the next room and lie in the fetal position because my God, Marlon, you have done the Lord's work tonight.
You really did.
Definitely.
You were amazing. You were.
My God.
It was great having this conversation with you.
Absolutely.
You are just like a great example for men, for African American men. I hope when people listen to this, they really take from a lot of the things that you said and apply it, like you said, and start like the day that they hear this podcast, start working on self. Like it's very important, especially with what we're going through now. You see like depression rates rising, suicide rates rising, byproduct of depression. So take care of yourself first, and everything else will come. Invest in yourself, everything else will come. And I love the way that you spread that message. So thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sure. We again, we can't say thank you enough. You shared so much with us. Like, I feel like I'm gonna go back and listen to this episode and just continue over and over and just pull out so many different
things.
Those
gems.
Yeah, man. The whole episode, usually at the end of the episode, we do #wise words from start to finish.
Wise words, girl. I was thinking the same thing. Girl, I have the notepad. I was writing stuff down on my notepad.
This was beautiful. Like, we appreciate your openness. We enjoyed it. This was the conversation that we were looking to have.
Thank you for being so honest.
Yeah. We want everybody to know, not just men, but everybody to know that emotional intelligence is really important, but it's okay to show that transparency, that vulnerability. Those words are taboo, and they're just like, oh, you trying to psych me out or whatever. Like, no, we got to do this thing, and we're not meant to do it alone. We got to do it together. So growing up, we play varsity basketball together. And I dated a guy on the basketball team for a hot second. But I always looked at them as that's the team, and there's Marlon.
There's Marlon, right?
But not that you didn't fit on the team. And I'm gonna just continue to love this because I haven't spoken to you so long, and I'm glad that we're speaking now. It wasn't that you didn't fit; it was that you were different. And speaking to you now, you're different for a reason. And I'm not saying anything negatively about them. Those are my guys, love them to death, but you're different for a reason. And a part of that purpose is fulfilled tonight because of the wise words that you shared tonight, because of the journey that you shared tonight, and all of like the gems. My God, like I cannot wait. I'm finna be sending this episode out like, listen to this. Listen to this. I'm gonna listen to my mama and my daddy because they love you.
We have already been texting while we're talking about, oh my God, this is so amazing. We love this. This is so great. He's doing great.
They're gonna love to hear this. I can guarantee, just to see the growth, knowing that seed was already there way back in 2003 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up until 2020.
Don't be giving dates out, girl.
we shared our age on this podcast like 10 times. They already know.
Right, they know. But to second what you were saying, when he was talking about being in high school and like being very laid back and the teammates being more rowdy, I was like, that was so true.
Yeah.
Like, and like when you said it, Mia, like it was like the team and Marlon, it was true. It wasn't because like you were bad at it and you were isolated from them because they just had a prejudice or something against you. It was just because like you just had a different aura about you than they did. And like she said, now it's like it comes around full circle for me. Absolutely. Because I didn't know you like Mia knew you back then. So.
But knowing those guys then, knowing you then, they knew it too. Yeah. They knew it.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? It's crazy. I'll be even more transparent with you guys. In the moment in high school, I did not understand it. And I struggled with it, right? And I think I was telling my wife about this. I was telling her like I was known, but I wasn't necessarily popular, right? And I know now that it wasn't a bad thing. It was really a bit of protection for my good. But I was like, I was telling her that even back then, I held both of you in such a high regard that I'm like, I didn't get, like, I knew y'all, but I didn't get, like, invited to parties or, you know what I mean?
We didn't either.
But y'all hung out. You see what I'm saying? Like, y'all were having a different type of party, a different type of gathering. And I was like, man, I would have been overjoyed to have done more things with you all. And I think I would have fit in more or fit in a little bit better than I did with you all. But I understood why. Even in high school, like there was a pushing forward for me and then a stepping back for a lot of my teammates. And I see that now as leadership. Like it was something trying to get me to step into leadership, but I wasn't quite equipped for it. And so now it's just like we say hindsight is 20/20, and that exemplary for this situation. Like I wish I would have saw it back then because I could have affected more people. But I don't look at it as a bad thing, just as you are. I look at it as a chance to propel myself even further forward in this life. Like those situations make me brave now. The fearfulness that I had then makes me brave now.
Right. I think that what helped Mia and myself is me, her, and you remember Janicia and Brittany. We had formed this close relationship in middle school and brought that into high school. So you saying that you were known but wasn't popular, that sounds so foreign to me because that's how I saw myself. Like I felt like I was known but I wasn't popular. I felt like you were popular. And like the only reason I felt like I fit in with my friends was because I had formed that group at a younger age and we had just kept that bond throughout, because I always kind of felt like I ping pong because I was in so many different things. Like I was in band, I was in volleyball, I was in softball, and then I did track 2 years, and then I was in like all these other clubs. So it's like it was so many different types of people that I was around that I never really knew where I fit, but I knew that I fit with y'all three. So that's
yeah.
You know. So I like, I don't know. I know you say like, I just don't see that. I don't see you like you saw you in high school.
Right.
I thought it was Marlon. Who's the other one?
Mhm.
Who was the other one? My mind went blank.
There were a good group of y'all.
Yeah, it was like a little, like a
It was
handful of y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all were like varsity players, good at basketball, good at football.
Especially
Like
our senior year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our senior year, it was like, you are one of the starting five. You are of a particular, stature, and it was a big thing, for us. It was a big thing.
Like,
We were
I remember like going to the what it was called when we go to the gym before a game.
Pep rally.
Pep rally. Oh man, I'm old. But I remember like going to those pep rallies and Marlon run out and everybody cheering for Marlon when he would run out, because we knew, like, for this
I feel
basketball
like people
game,
knew. I honestly do believe that people knew that it wasn't just about the sport with Marlon. It may have been for this person and that person or whatever. We know that they gonna always shoot the three and make it, but it was still something different about Marlon. And I swear, I'm not bucking your head up. I'm telling the truth. Because when I talked to my parents, because they were just always at every game, and they critiqued and analyzed and loved all of these players like, that was their kids. They would talk about this particular person and that person and their game. But when it came to Marlon, it was more so who Marlon is as a person.
Right.
And how that translated into your game, because that was what they were able to see. So, we'll stop the love fest now, but those are some things that you definitely needed to know that maybe you've never heard before, maybe you have, but I would be remiss if I did not share those things with you while we have the opportunity to.
Wow. All
right, so one last time, thank you for joining us. We had a wonderful conversation. This conversation is going to be long, and we're going to keep the majority of it because it was just so good. I can't wait till it comes out because I'm about to be the first one listening. So thank you, Marlon. We definitely appreciate it. We definitely appreciate it.
So
and
much.
Hopefully this will be, this will be the first of more conversations, and we will, definitely invite you back.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a good night. We have taken up enough of your time.
Yeah,
we
for
will
sure.
Holler at you later.
Bye, Marlon. Yes, thanks again.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, long distance besties, for joining us again for another Not So Private conversation. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram at Jeanne V. Williams. That's at Jeanne, Jeanne V. Williams, and at Perfectly Mia. That's at Perfectly MIA. And if you have any topic suggestions or any questions, shoot us an email at notsoprivatepod@gmail.com.
Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We definitely appreciate it. Remember to leave a review on Spotify, Apple, and Google. You can also find us at Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Overcast, and Breaker. And you can find us on anchor.fm/NotSoPrivatePod. Now you can also hear us on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Not So Private Podcast channel. Now, with all of that being said, join us next time for another Not So Private conversation.